Now it's live. Now is there's always a little bit of a delay. Here, let me sit down. Looks like I'm giant. Here we go.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Drupal and Coffee in the Morning.
Aww.
My name is Wilbur Ince. I am the co-host, and I'd like to introduce our special host, Mr. Chris Weber.
Oh, so awesome.
The Sprint Master from the Nerdery.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the
Good
code
morning,
sprint.
Chris.
Good morning to you, Wilbur.
Hey, Chris.
Ah, I no, this may shock you a little bit, but I have already had 2 cups of coffee this
Oh,
morning. I don't know if it's like sinking in yet. I'm probably gonna get a little jittery near the end.
yeah. Well, I was at the Nerdery for the code sprints on Sunday, and I had some of that Joe's breakfast blend.
Ah, the breakfast blend, yeah.
And I got jacked. It was killer.
The coffee's a bit strong, and when we had the code sprint here at the Nerdery, that was a code sprint that followed the Drupal camp here that we had in the Twin Cities. And,
Yeah.
the Drupal camp's always been kind of special in my heart. It's the very first event that I went to that was Drupal related.
Yeah.
And I remember, the overall impact of being able to meet WebChick, Angie Byron, and being able to shake her hand and say thank you for all of the work. Because, she does an incredible amount of work, but leading up to the release of Drupal 7, it kind of dominated. I don't know if it dominated her life or not, but she was all over the issue. She was a release master.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I had kind of a similar experience at the code sprint again because there we were, and I walk in the room, and I don't know if I missed him, but there's Greg Dunlap. There was Alex Potts, the other Alex.
Bronstein.
Alex Bronsky. There was Jeff.
Yes. And Kathy.
And it was like, holy cows, we have
as well as
here. We have a pretty good collection of the force at that point.
Yeah, Jen Lampton, Nate Haug, tons of people, and Greg was completely unexpected.
I was like, what is he doing here? So that was great. It was great, and I can say for myself, I had maybe my best Drupal core sprinting ever at that.
Yeah.
My environment was up. I was ready to get going. I got on some issues. I dug into Twig and some theming things about some basic Drupal output, and I was able to do some. Well, we worked on a thing together, issue together, and
yeah, and there were a lot of issues to work on. There still is a lot of Twig autocomplete issues where we see some double escape
characters.
We're just seeing like weird markup appearing in the administrative user interface, and that's because of the double escaping bug. And those are actually somewhat easy to find, and it's a very fun process to go and fix those.
Yeah. So I think just for everybody to think about when they're working on Drupal core now is that a lot of the work to be done now is stuff that we can do. Stuff like you and I, Chris, that we can go in there and look at this and it's like, oh, this is about cleaning up some code. This is about a format that's already, or a syntax that's already defined.
Yep. APIs well established.
And now it's legwork. Now let's get busy and let's fill in the code that it all works together.
There continues to be some very meaty things, but other people are working on those.
Yeah, right. And giving us pretty clear direction about, hey, there's all these instances of this thing that has to happen, so let's make it happen.
Yeah.
So, great. Well, should we talk about Drupal Camp a little bit?
I'd love to. Yeah,
How was the camp, Chris? Did you have a good one?
It was a great camp. for me, probably the best camp that I was a part of, because I had a talk that I gave, and I didn't kill myself trying to get it done.
Yeah.
I'm usually like high stress because
Yeah.
despite all of my best efforts, things just kind of come together at the last minute for me. Um,
Yeah.
and this was a talk that I thought was going to be super high stress because I knew I wasn't going to have a lot of time to to prepare it, and then I was able to deliver it, and I felt good about it before the talk, and I felt good about it after the talk.
Yeah.
Camp-wise, just a number of the names that you mentioned, um, that are super awesome to have in our state, and to have them be at our camp, it just adds so much value to the camp, and being able to have a have done this camp a number of times, and to be able to just be able to roll with the what's happening in the event and prepare for having a number of people here. It was just super awesome. I know
Yeah.
that we had an awesome room,
Yeah.
and that the room was awesome.
For sprinting and birds of a feather sessions and unconference. They called that the unconference
Yeah,
room, where you could just come in and talk about what you want to talk about.
yeah, that was
So,
that was
big
awesome.
thanks
And
to
we had
Barry.
2 whole days of sessions.
Yeah.
A lot of camps I go to, they just have like a day, and we had 2 days. And then follow it up with, or start it up with training. We had a training day before the camp, and we had a code sprint day after the camp.
You're right. Right. Did you go to the training, Chris?
I
You-
did not. No, I mean, it's difficult for me to make a Thursday.
Yeah. Yeah, so I participated on Thursday. I was a mentor in the Build a Module training session put on by Build a Module. That's Chris Shattuck. And Barry Medor was the kind of the host of the day for that. And so we had a great turnout for that. That room was packed. We had 77 people in training that morning. And that went great. There was another session on working with SAS,
Mm.
which is kind of the session that I wanted to go to, but I thought I would help out Barry and be a mentor, and that worked great. So I'm hoping that maybe I can pick up some of those materials and go over that later. And then the other training was, I'm drawing a blank here. I don't remember.
Poof, it's gone.
Yeah.
These
So we
Drupal
got a lot of
Coffee
people trained.
shows kind of get pulled together real quick. We don't have a lot of time to
Oh, yep. Okay.
do pre-show.
So great. So what else we need to do here, Chris? Tell me where we need to go now.
Well, we kind of touched base on the code sprint. I just want to talk a little bit about like feedback about the code sprint, because on the day of the sprint, I was scrambling a little bit, and
Yeah,
I
you
don't know, what do you think, Wilbur? I got a few complaints that it was too cold. Were you in the nerdatorium? Did you experience that as well?
Yeah, I wasn't in the nerdatorium. I was in the other room.
Well,
You
I
may-
I know that there was a number of things I could fix. If
yeah.
if we could do it all over again,
Yep.
I could probably have made the whole sprint day a little bit better. Now that I got my head screwed on straight.
Yeah.
And the temperature was one. Turns out we can just open all the doors in the nerdatorium. We have some pretty industrial strength air conditioning equipment.
Ah.
And no, we can't really turn that off. But
Okay.
opening all the doors could mitigate that problem a bit.
Yeah.
We did have a number of problems with the internet, and there's just so much interference in this area of the building that makes that a problem. And
Yeah.
been talking with our IT staff, and looks like they're going to do a number of hardware replacements in order
Oh.
to make the experience better. But also, I think we're working up a better strategy for handling big events like our code sprint. So that'll be
Yeah.
better in the future.
All right.
Just
Right.
want people to know that if they had difficulties at the code sprint, please send that feedback to me, and we can take that feedback and make it into some kind of a positive change.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you'll consider having the code sprint here again next year.
Absolutely. I think, you guys have done a great job hosting that event. And, there's a lot of volunteers on the crew that make that whole weekend possible. But for us to be able to rely on the nerdery to handle the facilities, handle the food, it's just like we don't have to manage that. It's done.
By the way, that's another question. Was the food okay?
Food was great.
Well, I mean, we had sandwiches, and the other thing I didn't do very well for the code sprint is do a great job of letting all the PHP developers that we have here know about the event. Because I got a buddy of mine come on and pull me aside. It's like, hey, you didn't tell me that so many awesome PHP and Drupal developers are going to be here, and I would have loved to come.
Yeah.
And then he was chastising me for serving people sandwiches. It's like, you brought some of the best PHP developers in the world here, and you gave them sandwiches.
Yeah. You know what I like about the sandwich thing and about the whole nerdery setup is that you have the breakfast, the cereal thing, and just sort of snacky things all around, and then the lunch. It's like what do you want? I mean, here it is. You can make yourself any kind of sandwich you want.
Yeah.
You don't. Whereas if you get a box lunch, it's like this is it.
Well,
So,
the main thing I was trying to fix is that last year we had pizza. And
Yeah.
that's a terrible choice for vegans. It's like, how are you going to find a pizza that doesn't have cheese?
yeah, right.
And
Right.
so we had a salad available. It's like, whoa, great, thanks. Just
Yeah.
because I'm vegan, you think I want a salad? I
Right.
want a little bit more than a salad, thank you.
Right.
And so I think we did a better job of providing good vegan options. But yeah, I mean, I suppose on paper, it is
You
just
know-
sandwiches.
Yeah, and what I think, Chris? I think it was perfect with the whole spirit of the sprint, right? Is where like if you're interested now, you can go over and make yourself a sandwich, and you can make a big sandwich or you can make a little sandwich, whatever you
Yeah.
want, and you can just snacky all day, and that's how code sprinting is, right? One person is done with a task, and one person is not, so they just keep working, and the other person has has breakfast or lunch. So.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
Please don't interrupt me while I'm involved in code just because you want me to eat right now. I'm an adult. I can go and choose when I want to eat on my own.
Yeah. So, and one thing I was going to tell you, Chris, that we did at our training that might help you with your wireless thing at the nerdery is that we at St. Thomas they have hard line hookups to the internet, and so we brought a box of wireless or of wire. Can't talk.
Like a switch and a router, and
So
that's the avenue we're pursuing. Apparently, it might be possible to put a hard wire directly into our wireless nodes, so that we can have a switch there, and maybe even have it like a designated, hey, are you having internet trouble table.
Well, what happens, Chris, is that if you drop a router into the room and have cables, even for maybe 20 people, is that all those people go off the wireless, and now it gets a lot easier on the other side. So you just have to tip that balance back,
Yeah.
Or put in another, drop a hard wire and put in another wireless router that half the people can jump on one and half the people can jump on the other.
Yeah.
Because it's the bandwidth in that router itself that becomes the cog, and if you have 2 wireless or 3 wireless, now you can offload people. So
Cool.
yeah.
I just wish we could do it all over again. I mean, every time we have those code sprints, I want to do it all over again. Especially this one though.
Yeah.
There are very few times. We got the cons. We got a few camps that we can go to that we can see our friends and the people that we're talking with online on a routine basis, and being
Yeah.
able to be in a physical vicinity with them is just so valuable.
I can share another little Code Sprint story. I was sitting with, just doing some work, and right next to me, one of those, I'll call it a core, it's not a core conversation, but I'll say this is the meat of what happens at a Drupal camp, is there was an intense conversation with the two Alexes and with Krell. And they were talking about how to, a little over my head about how these systems are working. And to hear those guys negotiate and talk in that, not on a chat conversation.
Yeah,
but these guys
in real life.
Sitting there really like throwing ideas in about their deep understanding of these things, coming together and working to a compromise. And then at the end, it took about 10 minutes, and all of a sudden they're like, okay, this is how we're going to do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And a lot of Drupal 8 development got done in that moment, and many more of those moments happen when everybody sits in the same room.
A lot of Drupal 8 development started at Drupal Camp Twin Cities over the years. I remember, what was it, like 2 years ago, I think. We saw the birth of Views and Core. Or was it 3 years ago?
Wow. Earl Miles, yeah.
Yeah, right. Earl Miles came to the camp and was working on a secret project at the time. and then I remember there was I think that same year we had a number of people, in the nerdatorium, and they were like arguing about how to implement Twig in Drupal 8. And some of the same things that we're seeing implemented now, we're starting to see like the fruition of that idea. Like, hey, we turned double escaping on. Remember when we were talking about that 3 years ago?
Right. Yeah.
It's the people. It's this camp. It's the people being able to come to any camp, not just the Twin Cities camp, but being able to interact with other people who are working on Drupal, other people who are struggling through understanding or working on cool things. Is an immense value, and I've gone long distances and sometimes at great expense to just kind of reignite that feeling.
Yeah, right. And we get pulled up by what's happening. You and I working on Twig issues. That's going to help us as we look at Drupal 8 and see how it works. And it's like, oh yeah, I know how to write functions like this now because that's how we do it. Inline templates, right?
Yeah.
And I got a good inline templates, and it's like, oh, this is how you inject HTML into forms on Drupal pages without breaking them and double escaping everything.
Right. So. There's so much excitement around the idea of reusable solutions.
Yeah.
Being able to have a pattern or being able to have a series of solutions you can reuse over and over again in your practical website creation life is gold.
Yeah. Speaking of reusable patterns, I don't know if you were we sat together in the closing session. Remember that, Chris? And I was really struck by Krell's comment about how we at Drupal, if everything came true for him, what would happen? And that is that we, the Drupal community, would be forming and influencing PHP.
That's kind of like a symptom of the overall goal that as Drupal developers we stop the process of really thinking of our work as being Drupal specific.
Yes.
And that when we're creating a module, yes, we're going to have to do a little bit extra work to make it work in Drupal, but that perhaps the bulk of our work could be extracted into a Symfony service that could be injected via the module, and therefore that Symfony service, that work that we're doing in that code, could theoretically be used in some other kind of project that may or may not be Drupal related.
Yeah, reusable code.
Yes. I've actually been excited about that idea ever since they started talking about bringing Symfony into Drupal, because I work in a place where they have Symfony developers. They've got straight up PHP developers doing things. We've got WordPress, we got Expression Engine, we got Craft, we got all kinds of people doing all kinds of different things, but it's all PHP.
Yes.
Why isn't there more reuse? Why don't we have a functioning vocabulary? Because even sometimes when we're talking about things, things are weird because we use the word module, and front end developers use the word module in a different kind of way. they they use the word services, and then that makes me think of the services module, and we can't even have a functioning, we can't even have a dialogue because we don't even have the right language. Despite
Yeah.
the fact that we use the same programming language.
Not yet. We don't. Not yet. We don't.
Well, that was years ago. Now, when I'm talking to PHP developers and I tell them, hey, you're using a Symfony CMF for your project, well, guess what? We're using the same routing system. Guess what? We're actually using parts of Symfony CMF in Drupal 8.
Yeah.
We're using YAML, and we're using, and we can have dialogues where they start talking about how, hey, I created this great twig filter for our project. It's extremely useful. And then I just know that I could reuse that work because you just need to do a little bit of work, grab the twig environment object, and then do the add filter method on it, and then, hey, we've got your filter.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is so much value in being able to create these kinds of solutions that you can reuse on different kinds of projects, even if it's not a Drupal project, because, I mean, as a developer, you can say, well, yeah, I've done a lot of Drupal projects, but I'm a PHP developer, and you can hire me as a PHP developer,
Yeah. Right. Right.
and I'm not going to be a fish out of water.
Right. Completely. Completely separated in my own thing. Yeah. Cool. What else do we have to get at, Chris?
Well, we're kind of out of time.
Oh, all right. Perfect.
I would love to segue into doing a little bit of my talk, but I think we should have started with that if we're going to hit that. This, unlike other podcasts, is just a half hour, so we don't have a lot of talk. But it's great to finally do one again.
Yes. You know, I saw it on my schedule and I thought, hey, it's early enough. I see Chris online. Let's talk.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So, Wilbur, do you have anything you'd like to tell the world about what you're doing?
Anybody in the Twin Cities tomorrow? We have Drupal Happy Hour. We're going to hopefully have some new folks there that were at the camp, and we're going to debrief about what happened. And next week we have code Drupal Jam, we call it, which happens at Gorton Studios. And so come on out and bring your code and hang out and talk to people. And then, gosh, the next week after that we got Drupal User Group. So August has been Drupal-rific every week.
Drupal-rific.
Drupal-rific. Drupal-rific. So.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Wilbur, for coming on. Thank you
Yeah.
for opening the show.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
We'll catch you later.
Drupal Coffee.
Bye-bye.
Bye.